must be getting old. It's my job to get these youngsters qualified. You get all kinds, and I've had my share. With some, it comes natural, while others... Now, this one today. But as I said, after 2 years of instructing, you run across all kinds. These pictures bring up a case in point. Those guys helped save my butt not too long ago. They were part of a search and rescue team that pulled me out of the bush. I hope I never have to go through that again. Let me tell you about it. His name was Second Lieutenant Bernard S. Cummings. I had just started with Bernie, and he'd logged a few hours of duel, but he was coming on a little slower than the rest of the class. That day, I had to make a run to another base on an errand for the CO, and I decided to take Bernie along for some additional practice. After we'd been airborne for a while, I decided to give him control for some stick time. Well, he just couldn't seem to do anything right.
Left, 245. Roger, left 245. I have control. I have control. Don't manhandle it, Bernie. Handle it gently. See? It doesn't take much. Try it. Now you have control.
I have control. She's flamed out.
Bernie! Bernie! All the time I was coming down, I was worrying about my landing. I couldn't see Bernie. Maybe I shouldn't have let him handle the aircraft. But when I hit the ground and saw him lying there, I got off a Mayday and squawked 7700. I was pretty confident that we wouldn't be out here long. Unknown to us at the time, the search was already underway. The Rescue Coordination Center had already gotten search teams on their way to the area where we'd last been plotted. We came down in pretty country. I'd hunted and fished terrain like this many times. If it wasn't for the seriousness of the situation, I might have almost enjoyed this. But with a greenhorn like Cummings in tow, I figured I'd have my work cut out for me, just keeping us going. Anyway, at the time, I was convinced that all we had to do was walk out. Did I get an argument on that score?
What now, sir?
We're getting out of here.
But in survival school, they said...
Look, I know the bush. I got my first deer rifle when I was 10. If you know what you're doing, there's nothing to it.
Sir, I just went through survival school. They said to stay on the site, build a shelter, and set out signals.
You're not the only one who went through the school, Lieutenant. Of course. I didn't tell him how long ago. Then I started to figure out what we'd do if we ended up rattling around the bush after dark.
I don't know. I'm still a little shaky. I'm not sure I could make it very far.
That tore it. I knew then there was no choice, at least for today. We needed shelter. We decided to set up camp by the lake I discovered earlier. It was close by, and unlike the woods we came down in, it was open enough to give aircraft a chance to spot us. Bernie and I discussed shelter possibilities. And because I felt reasonably sure it wouldn't take long for us to be found, I decided on a two-man lean-to. It's simpler than a teepee or paracabin, and it would be ample for our needs. The flies and bugs were a real menace. The fire helped, and the smoke kept down the monsters during the night. But I was still determined to have us walk out the next day. I kept telling Bernie the odds on us being out here for long were slim, but he still looked pretty down. I knew he was worried about his wife's reaction to all this. Then it started to rain. If the weather stayed bad, we might be in for a longer wait than I'd anticipated. I certainly didn't relish the idea of walking through the bush in a downpour. The rain stopped by mid-morning, and while Bernie hung up our gear to dry, I decided to give the fishing gear from the survival kit a try. Hooks, line, and a piece of wood for a float. Not very fancy, but it'll do. I wondered at the time how much a sports fisherman would pay to fish a remote lake like this. You know, the rations they give you in the kit are adequate, but it makes sense to supplement them. A fish, a rabbit, a little variety from jellied candies. Besides, the activity would divert Bernie's mind from dwelling constantly on our situation. That morning, I realized how long it had been since I'd been out in the bush, and just how long it had been since I'd taken survival training. Bernie pulled things out of the book that I'd forgotten, like the bit about edible roots and plants. I knew we had to supplement our rations, but Bernie was way ahead of me. The The storm from the night before eased during the night, but the skies remained overcast until noon. Somewhere out there, a search had to be going on, but a lot was riding on the weather holding. Bernie and I spent a good deal of the afternoon building signal fires by the lake.
You know, the book said, get your priorities straight, that your life could depend on it. Well, what was the order? First aid, fire, shelter, signals. Or was it shelter, then fire? At any rate, we did have shelter. Our next priority was signals. We had flares and the emergency radio. With colored panels and signal fires standing by, we figured we were well covered.
We weren't taking any chances that they would miss us if they got close. I'd pretty well given up on walking out. Hated to admit it, but Bernie was right. We had to stay put, in case search planes homed in our last known position. It would be embarrassing if we weren't there. It was our second day, and quite frankly, I was getting a little anxious. I'd been told it never took that long, what with radar control and transponders. So when Bernie suggested trapping, I fell in with it. Even found myself checking procedures in the survival book.
We got a fish!
Well, that meal wasn't half bad. Those roots were pretty good. What do you call them?
Beru.
I'm not sure that your method of landing fish is in the survivor's book. Maybe we could suggest Cummings' method for their next edition.
You know, this wouldn't be all that bad. But I keep worrying about Stephanie. I don't know what they could have told her.
Any kids?
No, not yet. We were gonna wait till I get a posting. Do you suppose they're out there looking for us?
Sure they are. Our PLB signal will be picked up by somebody. If the weather holds, tomorrow could be our day. By the end of the week, you'll be back messing up my training schedule again. We better turn in. I'll check the PLB.
It's a bear! A bear. Grab those cans and beat the heck out of them.
What we could have done with just a hatchet, I'll never know. I won't kid you. I was shook. If he decided to come around the other side and pay us a visit. The whole thing really unhinged Bernie, and he was all for hiking out in the morning. We could only guess that the search for us was still going on. With a clear morning, the weather wasn't a factor. At least I knew dinner was taken care of. One less thing to worry about.
Search headquarters. It's Rescue 304. Spotted 2 men standing on the side of Pepper Lake. Deploying the Sergeant Sommer.
We were lucky in many ways. Bernie had a change of heart and almost had me persuaded to try hiking out.
I mentioned luck, but there was more to it than that. If we hadn't had our survival training, it could have been a different story. And if Bernie hadn't been fresh out of school and corrected me on some things, I could have blown it. Although I'd have a little trouble admitting that to him. You know, I always told myself it could never happen to me, but it did. And it could happen to you.
Jerry, are you ready?
On my way.
I'm Captain Peter McDonald, and I'm a search master with the Search and Rescue Unit at CFB Edmonton. In the cockpit of this CF-5 just behind me is Captain Gene Chartrand. Gene's been flying for the past 4 years and has accumulated 800 hours in jet aircraft. He's a good pilot and rated well by his commander. This morning, Gene is flying a routine cross-country to Comox. There's nothing unusual about the flight. The weather in BC could be better, but it's nothing Gene hasn't faced before.
Channel 2.
Gene's flown these conditions so many times that it's strictly routine. But this time, he may encounter something that isn't in his flight plan.
Roger, Canadian Military 6771. Go Edmonton Terminal this time, 248.2. Have a good flight.
Roger, switching, 248.2.
I wonder if Janice has made reservations at Christo's. Well, at least she's moved out of her sister's place. Lord knows it's about time.
Edmonton Terminal, CanMill 6771 through flight level 250 to 310.
Roger, Canadian Military 6771. Squawk ident.
Roger, identing.
Canadian Military 6771. Radar identified. No position reports required. Call level 310.
Last time, we hardly had any time alone for the whole weekend. Level off check.
CanMill 6771, level 310.
Got it hacked. Hello, beautiful BC. Fire indicator.
Mayday, mayday, mayday! CanMill 6771, Edmonton forecast 210/150, heading 200 degrees, descending through flight level 300. On fire! Ejected!
Oh, my ankle's twisted. How did I do that? I don't believe this. I just don't believe it.
After the initial shock of leaving the aircraft and finding himself in a cold and forbidding environment, it's essential that a pilot gather his wits and begin to face the problem of winter survival in the bush.
Gotta keep an eye on the swelling and circulation. Oh, Janice is gonna go nuts when I don't show. When the boss hears about this, pranged one of his birds. Whoa, whoa, gotta calm down. That's the last of your worries right now, buddy. Phew, cold. Gotta get a fire going somehow. Rotten matches? Now, what did that instructor tell us? Gotta remember. What was it?
The usual sequence for lighting a fire is from spark to tinder to fuel.
I got your spark. Tinder. Tinder. Feather sticks, that's it. Gotta hurry, it's bloody cold. That ought to do it. And I got lots of wood. Better save the radio. Batteries will go fast in this cold. It would have done me a lot of good with that antenna down. Thank heaven I noticed it. Shelter. That's the next thing. Let's see now. Lean-to, suspension teepee, paracabin. Hey, now that's not bad. Nah, take too much time. I wonder if I just wrap myself in the chute.
The lean-to is an excellent shelter even in winter, for it permits the utilization of a fire for both warmth and cooking.
Thank you, Sergeant Gray. Hope they got it fixed before I went down. Ah, those rescue people are good. They won't take long to find me. I hope.
Thank you. I'll get back to you. Gene's Mayday call was monitored. The searchmaster was able to narrow down the search area considerably because of the signals received. Checking the information against the flight plan and the elapsed time airborne, the team was optimistic that the pilot would be found rapidly. After deciding on a location, he might use standing trees or a tripod as the uprights for the shelter. With lean-to construction, the double layer of chute material provides a waterproof dead airspace for insulation. However, the two layers must be kept separated and tight.
Oh, boy, I should be eating prime rib at Christo's and drinking wine with Janice. Instead, survival rations. And I can't even touch them for 24 hours. If they don't find me in the morning, I'll see if I can trap something. Maybe there's a lake nearby. I got hooks and a line in the kit. I wonder if trout like jellied candies. Oh, prime rib. Well done. Don't believe it. We've only been engaged for 2 weeks, and now this. Janice's mother was never entranced with the prospect of a jet jockey for a son-in-law. Claimed it was too dangerous. But now...
Remember, don't eat snow. Another thing, cold lowers your ability to think. It numbs both your mind and your body, and consequently, your will to survive.
With the arrival of darkness, Gene has to rest. Fatigue, he knows, will impair his ability to act and to exercise good judgment. Among the chief enemies of survival in the wilderness are fatigue and loneliness. The feeling of hopelessness that can be experienced when alone has to be combated constantly. Most of the aircraft have been recalled with nightfall, but the search will resume with increased determination at first light. It's been fairly well established where the aircraft went down.
Once you're down and you've taken care of your immediate requirements, such as injuries, a fire, and shelter, you should plan a signal strategy. It is essential that you aid searchers as much as possible.
There, that should do it. Item. Signal fires. Fire and smoke will provide 24-hour service. Light signal fires once a day to attract any local people. Chapter 4, Survivor's Handbook. Better keep it covered. Don't know how long I'll be here. Hold it. Gotta cut that kind of thinking out. Ah, that's good enough. Hurry it up, you guys.
Okay.
One of the search planes has reported a weak signal from what could be an ELT and is proceeding to home in on the signal. The main worry now is that the weather will continue to postpone contact for another day. But with over 24 hours in the bush, Gene's main concern is his morale.
Well, that does it for fish. If there's a lake or a river around here, I'm not gonna find it. Gotta stay close in case a plane comes over. 24 hours and not a peep. No planes, nothing. I wonder if they did get a fix. Well, surely they're moving by now. Janice must be going out of her mind. I wonder if there's anything like bears or wolves around here. No, chowderhead. Bears sleep through the winter.
Gene is conscious of his sinking morale, and in an effort to combat his growing apprehension, begins to build the rabbit snare. He's seen tracks in the snow not far from his camp, and he knows that he has to supplement his rations. He's beginning to feel that he may be here longer than he first thought. He also knows that if he can keep himself busy, it'll help make the time pass and keep his mind off his growing fear. One of the search planes, at last light the night before, flying his final search leg, got a reasonable fix on Gene's beacon. He pinpointed the location, but with his remaining fuel supply dangerously low, was forced to return home. If the weather deteriorates, it'll be necessary to send a ground rescue team. Procedure now is to send 2 SAR-techs down to Gene to check for a medical disability and survey the ground for evacuation. This story has a successful conclusion. Gene's survival training stood him in good stead. His ability to construct a shelter and to keep warm, despite the initial shock of being thrown in a cold and forbidding environment, saved his life. I wonder if that pilot, faced with the same set of circumstances as Gene, would do as well.